Hi everyone, Scott here again. As you know, I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner. So today we start with a question. Are you facing an upcoming surgery? And our topic is prehab, how to prepare for that, or rehab, or how could we possibly avoid the surgery altogether if that is a possibility for us. So I would like to start with a statement, and that is that mindfulness is the fastest, most thorough way to a good outcome and full function. Let me introduce a term that I've been thinking about a lot. The term is resilience, and that term implies that something or someone, in this case, has been stretched, put under pressure, but can bounce back. So Moshe Feldenkrais equated the term resilience with health. You could have an apparently healthy, weak organism that can't take a shock, or a deeper definition of health is a robust and healthy organism that can. So resilience is just something to keep in mind because it means that we can have a good outcome. And I've had a number of fractures in my life, and 2 required surgery. And for sure, on both of them, since the surgery itself is another trauma added to the injury, I definitely wanted a good outcome. So I'll go back 25 years when I fell off a roof and I broke my right ankle. And after successful surgical repair, I still found that I could not run properly. And that was due to a deficient movement pattern in my knee that I had developed. I didn't know that's what it was. I thought just the knee wasn't working right. And what do I do about this? And honestly, I was quite desperate. I went on quite a search for answers. I am someone who has worked in physical therapy a lot. I've been a physical therapist assistant for over 10 years. So I know generally the paradigm there is strength and stretch, the overall general paradigm. And the first physical therapist I went to actually made it worse, not what I wanted, trying to strengthen certain things certain ways, and I was already very strong. Anyway, that made it worse, focusing on the wrong things. I found another PT who was an ultra runner, and he got me on the right track. He had some experience with the Feldenkrais method. He was not a practitioner, he didn't understand everything about it, but he could apply just a little bit of it. And as it turned out, then he understood and knew that movement patterns were the key to this. So if you have a movement pattern that is harmful, and we'll discuss that in a minute, and no amount of strengthening can overcome that. There has to be, and in the Feldenkrais method, it emphasizes the primacy of learning and learning through your body, what your body can teach you and how to move more efficiently. You like to say, if you know what you're doing, you can do what you want. So obviously the converse is true also. If you don't know what you're doing, that's a big problem. But I was really desperate. If you've identified with a certain level of function and it's taken away from you, that is difficult to deal with. So very, very desperate for answers, really. And I had researched the Feldenkrais method online a little bit, but when I met this second PT, he got me started in the right direction. And what I learned was that if you are doing something that is a little bit, let's say you have a movement pattern that's only a little bit off, you do it thousands of times, you have a chronic injury. But what I learned was small changes produce huge results, produce much better outcomes. Small changes produce huge results. So from that point, let's go into a little bit of something that might be valuable to you, a little bit of explanation of how do we access those resources within ourselves that amount to resilience. And we already said that mindfulness is the fastest way to a good outcome. So how do we do that? Well, we might start with an understanding that if forces move through a joint properly, through the center of the joint, and using all the weight-bearing surfaces of the joint in good timing, that can be a very healthy thing, and your joints are liable to last you your entire life. And in fact, if you have not been doing that and you switch to a movement pattern that's a little bit more efficient, you can achieve a great deal of healing just by making a small change. So movement should move through the center of a joint, utilizing all the joint surfaces properly and in good timing. Now, what the problem is, a lot of times we will allow a movement, we have a habit, and so we do something that feels right even though it isn't. So we will allow a movement that also creates shear forces that don't move straight through the joint, that don't necessarily use all the joint surfaces appropriately. And we can also do a kind of a point loading thing. In other words, we use one surface of the joint much more than another. So the shear forces are destructive. They create friction rather than good movement. And using only one portion of a joint instead of the entire intended surface can be very harmful too. So in the Feldenkrais method, we learn to experiment so that we find the best way to use ourselves. It takes quite a bit of experimentation, and the results are quite joyful. So what I would like to do is leave you with a resource. I'm going to leave a link to a video that discusses proper use of a joint a little bit more with some visual illustrations that I hope will be helpful. And then I'm going to say that I had researched the Feldenkrais method a little bit online, and I couldn't make it work for myself because the ideas behind the method, how do I improve my movement and thus my function, are the ideas behind the method are rather not apparent at first, all of them, and rather voluminous. So what I found was I couldn't get started until I had a little bit of help. So I'm going to say don't necessarily leave it at just looking at a few videos on the internet, but please get a little bit of help to get started in your understanding of how to use the method and what you're actually doing. And along that line, if you would like to get some help, I will also in the description leave you a link to how to contact me, and I offer a free phone consultation, and we can discuss things in more depth and see how we could possibly work together. I highly recommend that whoever you work with, you get a little bit of help just to get started. And you can have some fantastic results by increasing your body and self-awareness through movement. So I hope this has been helpful. I'm sharing some of my own experience and how to get the best outcome. And I appreciate you watching. Please subscribe if you're interested. And we'll talk to you in another video. Thank you.